looks like the gang's all here, so let's get started. So let me just find the agenda. Where did it go? All right, so I'll call the Hamilton Board of Selectmen for April 5th to order at 6:36 p.m. We'll start with a roll call vote. We'll start with Darcy.
Darcy Dale here.
Rosie.
Rosie Kennedy here.
Bill.
William Olson here.
Jamie.
Jamie Knutson here.
And myself, Sean Farrell, is here. And then we have our Pledge of Allegiance.
Trouble with that as well.
I pledge
Pledge
allegiance to the flag
flag
of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thanks everybody. All right, so we have a few announcements and board openings. We have a zoning board of appeals opening, an open space committee opening, 2 associate member openings on the planning board, an affordable housing trust opening, historic district commission opening. So quite a few openings. And now we have time for 3 minutes for public comment. If anybody has anything to add to the meeting that's not already on the agenda, they can speak to it later.
Hi, Mr. Farrell. It's Tosh Blake here.
Hi, Tosh.
Yeah. Just a question for Joe Demelowitz. It's about just posting some of the meetings on HWCam. I saw that he posted the first Hamilton Wenham Human Rights Committee meeting. I think it was on the Hamilton YouTube channel. But I'd like to request that it be posted on also HWCam, where most of the other meetings are posted, including I think the Wenham Human Rights Committee and the Hamilton Planning Board, all that stuff. More just I think it's easier to find. Certainly was easier to find for me for the other meetings and other people too who may be looking for it. I don't know if you can kind of do that for the HWCam, the portal, I guess you could call it. And another question related to that, some of the resolution on some of the meetings, whether it be planning board or different committees, some have higher resolution than others, and some it's maybe it's a 480p or less. You can't read documents that are put on screen on the YouTube videos. So I don't know if you have a standard or kind of maybe institute a standard for posting videos. So when someone does put a document with a lot of text, it can be readable on screen, because I think some are uploaded for some reason at different resolutions. Some go all the way to 1080, which is great to read documents that are being discussed. And I don't know if that's a thing that can be done or not.
Joe, did you want to comment on that? I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah, just on the first question, we work with HWCam. Obviously, isn't officially a part of the town. They rely largely on volunteer help, and when they can get a few people that do work for them to kind of staff and do these meetings. HWCam didn't click into our link that night. We had been taping it on Zoom, so we put it up on our YouTube channel. I think we turned around and then sent it to HWCam. We'll try to do more of that. We'll try to get them to log in to as many meetings as possible, but we don't control HWCam. As far as the resolution, I'll look into the HWCam. I'll look into what we can do to try to standardize resolution. It's the first time it's been mentioned to me that we were having trouble, so I'll look at it.
I guess my question is, like, if it 1080p is like, I think everything's real readable 1080p, but once it gets to like 480, documents are extremely hard to read on screen.
I can actually confirm that my husband said the same exact thing. You can't read the documents when they show on the screen, and sometimes they're on the screen for quite a few minutes,
right? And
nobody can read it. So yeah, I agree.
All right, that makes sense.
Thank you. That's all.
All right, thanks, Tosh. Anyone else have any other comments before we get started?
Sean, it's David Smith.
Hey,
May
David.
I speak for a moment?
Yes, please.
I'm a little bit tardy on this, but a couple of weeks ago, the Hamilton Board of Health received a letter from the Board of Health chair of the town of Topsfield and the health director of the town of Topsfield. And I thought this was significant enough that I want to bring it to your attention. This was concerning the COVID-19 vaccine clinics that we conducted over at Topsfield Fairgrounds. And it was written to our Director of Public Health Nursing, Rachel Lee. The Topsfield Board of Health would like to extend our thanks to your assistance during the COVID-19 vaccine clinics this year. Your partnership and support were greatly appreciated as we work together to address a daunting public health crisis. We're grateful for all you did to help us, from pitching in to train and to lead the clinicians, to obtaining and managing vaccination supplies and administering vaccines. Thanks to dedicated professionals like you, we were able to vaccinate over 1,600 people against COVID-19 at the Topsfield Fairgrounds vaccine clinics. Thanks again for your strong community partnership with Topsfield. So I know that I think there are two people who deserve all the credit for vaccinating what we now know is over 1,000 of our Hamilton residents against COVID-19, and that's our Director of Public Health Nursing, Rachel Lee, and Ray Burnett. And I personally want to thank them, and I really appreciate that Topsfield extended this specific thank you to our public health nurse, and I think also as well Ray Burnett. So just wanted to let you know that.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that, David. That's great.
Okay.
Thanks very much, David. All right. Is there anyone else that has anything to add? All right. We'll move on to Selectmen and Town Manager reports. Let's start with Jamie. Do you have anything to add this week?
Very briefly, just we had our first meeting of the Human Rights Commission this last week, and so we're up and going.
Did they pick a chair, Jamie?
Yes, Ann Brady, who is on here as well.
Great, congratulations to Ann. Thank you, Ann.
And Elena Walsh is the vice chair, and she's on as well.
Perfect. Congratulations to both of you. All right. Anything else, Jamie?
Not from me.
Okay. Darcy, anything from you today?
Just that we're going to be continuing to work on our campaign for the town hall. We have a meeting tomorrow, so I'm sorry, on Wednesday. So I'm looking forward to that, and just see how that goes. But other than that, I'm all set. Yeah.
All right, Rosie.
Yeah, I have two things. First thing is regarding the COA. 2 summers ago, I worked with Sean Timmons to institute a senior swim on Sundays, and I contacted Sean a few days ago, and he thought that would be something we could do again. We're requesting to alter the time just a smidge, and he thought that that might work out well. So I contacted the COA Board of Director chair and just informed her and asked her if when it's firmed up, she would be able to advertise it to the seniors, and she was very excited about that. And she also told me that Sean Timmons had come by today to the COA, and they're talking about increasing activities for the seniors, integrating them with the rec committee, and maybe a walking club, maybe using the outdoor area, the patio for some events. So those are all very exciting things, and Sherry's very happy about those events. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about as a member of the Selectmen liaison to the Conservation Commission. I know that there's not a formal application in front of the planning board yet for a potential development of 50 units down at 133 Essex Street. But because this has garnered such attention, I thought I would just mention it and invite people to tune into the planning board tomorrow night. They're going to be having an informal discussion about this. The planning board is, I believe, at 7. There have been over 5,000 people who have concerns about this development. Because I'm the liaison to the Conservation Commission, I was sent the potential plan, and it includes 36 units that ring around wetlands. And there are people that have a lot of concern about that. I think it needs to be decided whether this is a safe thing to do. And of course, our Conservation Commission will work diligently on that. But I just wanted to bring this up. I'm sure a lot of people know about it. But I think all those who can should tune in and listen to the proposal and form your own opinion. Thank you. That's all I have tonight, Sean.
Thanks, Rosie. I think that was good, kind of letting people know that that planning board meeting is coming up. And drop something, sorry. Important to know that the planning board is kind of end all be all with that development. So quite a process they'll have to go through with a lot of public
Yeah.
input and planning board input as well.
Yeah.
Bill, anything to share tonight?
Yeah, so three things. One was we had last week, I think Joe hosted with KP Law, was an open meeting law sort of refresher course for all. It was a good discussion, good dialogue, and I think, Joe, we should continue those sort of continued education things. So and take use of this WebEx or Zoom calls, because I think it was I think we learned some things that we didn't know, and we're going to do things a little better. And I think there's other things we probably can learn in the future. Number two was not much from the school committee, other than today was a great day because it was kids were back in school full time starting today. So hopefully today went well with the teachers, and we continue this way to the end of the year. So good job and good work on their end to get everyone back in school safely. And the last thing obviously was that planning board liaison. I wanted to also mention 133 Essex Street. So tomorrow is what they're calling a pre-application discussion. They want to, try and get it out there so the board and public have a better understanding of the project that's being proposed, that they can start thinking about how it fits within the special permit and the zoning bylaws, and they will have some a small ability tomorrow, depending upon timing, to have some public comment on the early stages. So tune into that as well. There's a couple other things they're going to be talking about as well, looking at our zoning in other areas of town too. So it'll be a pretty interesting meeting tomorrow. That is all I have.
Sure, it'll be a full house or a full Zoom. I don't really have too much to add. I did, just to update the board, I did have a meeting with Peter Britton and Kevin Kaminsky. I've talked to a couple of you about it, but not all of you. And as we know, Peter submitted a citizen's petition, and it was in after the warrant closed, but I talked with both of them, and they are both okay with us holding that citizen's petition until the fall town meeting or STM. If it goes that far. If we don't resolve it before then, we'll put it on that warrant for the fall. So just an update on that. And I don't think I have too much else. If I think of it, I'll add it. Joe, what have you got for us for town manager report?
Yeah, I have a pretty good sized town manager report tonight, but I won't go through all of it. A couple of big things that we do want to mention. Probably one that the Board of Health would like me to mention, and I know our public health nurse, Rachel Lee, wants me to mention. Locally, our COVID cases are surging again. We're back in the yellow. Over the weekend, we got up into 21, which I think puts us awfully close to red. The Board of Health has put out a statement that, in conjunction with the town, and basically reminding people that while there are lots of good positive things and reasons to be optimistic, vaccines out, it's going to be in general distribution on the 19th of this month. That's all wonderful, but we're still not out of the pandemic just yet. And we're asking people to remember to continue to do the things that have kept them safe and their neighbors safe up to this point. Keep your masks on when you're outdoors in public, maintain social distancing, wash your hands, sanitize your hands, things like that. We got a couple more months, and if we can get to a good vaccination rate in the state, we'll be a lot safer, but that's probably a month and a half away at least. And they just wanted to remind people to just try to remember, keep that in mind as the weather gets nice and everybody starts to go outdoors. Remember to keep your mask with you. Town Clerk Karen Kale would like us to remind folks that the state legislature has continued the vote by mail that was done for the pandemic last year. So folks who want to vote in this year's town election on May 6th can do so by contacting the town clerk's office to get a mail-in ballot. It's also this Friday, April 9th, is the last day to register to vote in that election. The town is making good progress on a shared streets project grant that we got from the state over the winter. This project will bring street level electricity to Railroad Avenue, improve the bike and pedestrian access along Willow Street all the way to Asbury Street, improve the crosswalks at the intersections of Railroad and Willow, all the way down Willow and across Willow to Asbury, and add bicycle parking both on Railroad Avenue and at Patton Park. So it's a good project. It's all being paid for with state dollars, and we'll have it wrapped up and completed by the end of May as per the terms of the contract. So we're moving ahead with it. You should start to see some of those things, particularly the electrical work and some of the striping on Willow very shortly. You already mentioned what a good job Sean's been doing, diving in, trying to help our seniors.
Yep.
He reported last week that we had over 900 registrations in one day for the Summer Parks program and other summer related programs. Obviously, people are eager to get back outside and, recreating and participating. And, this last year has been tough. And so the recreation department's doing a good job with kind of getting that together. And the last one that I'll talk about is that the town is joined with 6 other towns: Ipswich, Essex, Manchester by the Sea, Wenham, Rockport, and the city of Gloucester, and Conley's Pharmacy, and asking the state if we could have a regional sub-site. So rather than force all of our residents to try to go to one of the mass vaccination sites, we were looking for one of the sub-regional sites. The proposal is being orchestrated or coordinated, I should say, through Senator Tarr's office, and they're pretty hopeful. They were able to do a similar type of program a little further up Merrimack Valley around the Haverhill area, so they're hoping that they can do so for us. We should get all that information into DPH this week, I believe, and then hopefully here in pretty short order. We're hoping to be able to do vaccines in either Hamilton, Ipswich, or Gloucester sometime in late April, early May. But we don't have the dates, and we don't have that all confirmed yet. But one of the sites that they did choose in the partnership was to use the recreation center in Hamilton. Conley's has really had a good experience being able to run clinics there, and that's their goal, is to use it one day a week in Hamilton and other days in another town. So that's all I have for today.
All right, and I'll just kind of piggyback a little bit on that. Joe's reminded me that when he was talking about Sean with the update on the 900 signups in one day, just a comment to Joe that the kind of new videos I just saw Sean Timmons' video online, and a few other department heads have put out some videos, and you yourself have done a few of them lately. They've gotten a lot of positive kind of feedback online. So I think it's a good thing to kind of keep doing that, keep it up. I think it's people like those little 1-minute videos. They're short and sweet, and they let you know what's going on. So I think that's great.
And I will just say Joe was the trendsetter for that. So way cool, Joe.
I think, and it's like everything here, it's a team effort. Everybody has to kind of pitch in. I think people needed to see what I was asking them to do, so I had to do the first couple of them, and then David from the Board of Health helped out with one. So once they saw what it was great to have Corinne jump in, and I believe Chief Stevens has done one, Tim has done one. So we're gonna work our way through. All the department heads will get their turn.
All right, so consent agenda. We have approved the minutes of our joint meeting with the BOS and the FinCom for February 10th and February 20th, 2021. Approved the minutes of meetings from the Board of Selectmen for February 16th, 2021, March 1st, 2021, and March 4th, 2021. And then also approve the Hamilton Wenham Garden Club annual plant sale at the Senior Center that'll be outdoors that we typically do this time of year.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, and we'll do a roll call vote. We'll start with Darcy.
Darcy Dale, aye.
Rosie.
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Bill.
William Olson, aye.
Jamie.
Jamie Knutson, aye.
And myself, Sean Farrell, aye. The ayes have it. And now moving quickly onto our agenda, we have our first item, appoint. And I don't have her name in the agenda. You have to forgive me. Kay Bridier to the Hamilton Historic District Commission. And it's Kristen. Kirsten. Sorry.
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you.
So Kirsten, typically we have the folks who are kind of up for an appointment come visit us and give us a little introductory kind of a statement. And then we kind of discuss you a little bit, and then hopefully we appoint you.
Sure. My name's Kirsten Bridier. My family and I moved to Hamilton this summer from Brookline. And it's been a funny time to move to a new community, looking for ways to get involved in our new town. And I have a master's degree in historic preservation. I currently direct the American Friends Group of Scotland's largest conservation charity. And I've served on similar boards on Nantucket and in Brookline. So I have a sense of what the committee structure is like and the kind of work that they do. So I'm really delighted to be considered.
Great, thank you. And thanks for volunteering your time. Any questions for Kirsten from the board or anybody?
Just a comment from me, your resume is very impressive, and we are certainly very, very lucky to have you as part of the Historic District Commission.
Thank you. We're excited to be in Hamilton.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, as well, Sean, I looked at her application letter and resume, and it's overly qualified. So we welcome her to town, and we're going to take her up on her knowledge and make good use of it. So thank you for volunteering.
Yes.
All right, if anybody else has any comments, Jamie?
So I agree with all those comments. Is the Historic District Commission, I guess, exempt from our little policy about getting a recommendation letter from the commission itself?
That's a good question, Jamie. I don't believe
My understanding was that it was in your packets. If it was left out, it was left out in error. I know Pat said that he got one from Scott. Kirsten, you did meet with the board, right?
I met with them a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know they had talked about it, but the packet was pretty big. Forgive me, I didn't see it. We got a letter from Scott, but I believe there was something from Scott. They talked about it at the meeting, so.
It wasn't in the packet, but.
I apologize for that. I don't, it got missed. It was a very large packet this time. I'm sorry about that.
Jamie, would you be okay if we voted on it tonight?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have any issues with that?
Just a thank you for taking the step. It's a big step, but that's great.
All right. So then if anybody wants to make a motion, and then we'll have a vote.
Sure, I'll make the motion. I'm going to go for this name. I move that we appoint Kirsten Bridier as a member of the Hamilton Historic District Commission.
Second.
Right, and we'll do a roll call vote. We'll start with Darcy.
Darcy Dale, aye.
Rosie.
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Bill.
Oh, he's muted.
I saw his head nod.
William Olson, aye.
Jamie.
Jamie Knutson, aye.
And myself, Sean Farrell, aye. And once again, Kirsten, thank you so much for volunteering your time. We look forward to working with you and seeing what you do on the board.
Thank you. I look forward to meeting you all in person sometime.
I know.
Thank you.
All right, up next we have approve temporary outdoor dining for 15 Walnut, discussion and vote. This is kind of I don't want to say it's a carryover, but it's a reboot of last year's ask that we granted for outdoor seating due to COVID issues. They want to do a very similar scenario as they did last year. Joe, is there anything else you want to add?
Nope, we did that. We did check with KP Law, the state legislative effort to allow boards of selectmen to do a temporary kind of passing by the ABCC is still in place throughout the pandemic. And so we were advised that to just follow the same process. The applicant, their attorney is on the call here, and they provided basically the same application as last year. They updated a few things, and that was in your packets as well.
And I believe the governor's order or this situation will stand until he relieves the emergency order. So,
I think it's still 60 days after until after the end of the pandemic. So, for instance, even if it comes and we get lucky and they call off the executive order, or the emergency declaration in July, they'd be able to go until the end of September. So,
okay. And Jill, are you the representative?
I am, as well as Melissa Ogden. I think she's on the line as well.
Hi, Melissa. Is there anything you two want to add to this application since you're here?
No, that's it. I mean, it's a repeat from last year, and then we are going to be filing for the permanent because we would like to add the outdoor space as a permanent accommodation to the facility. You'll probably be getting that application, in the next few weeks.
Okay. All right. So does anybody want to make a motion, and then we can have any further discussion if we want to?
I move that we approve the temporary outdoor dining for 15 Walnut.
Second that.
Right, any further discussion?
Yep, I have a comment. There's a discrepancy on the schematic of the seating. It's looks like it's 36, and on the application they're asking for 40. So we should clarify that. It looks like 36 is the number that looks like it would fit. So
Yes, we wanted the flexibility to have up to 40 seats, but the schematic does only show 36.
where would you put the other?
I believe it's when you combine, if you're able to combine, or I was just, I think it's the combination of seats in case the governor's orders allows for more than 6 at a table, is what I was advised.
I think it's more about, that the distance, and if the governor starts to give some flexibility, because for instance, I think today or maybe last week, the governor finally said, exercise classes, you can double the size. So now exercise classes went from like a class of 10 to now a class of 20. So it's kind of the same thing. And we were kind of worried about limiting ourselves to the amount of occupancy that can be shown with all the 6-foot distances and only 6-person tables. Because as you know, a lot of times in the Serenity restaurants, and 15 Walnut is one of them, we'll have large groups, like people come after work. It'll be a work party, a birthday party, sometimes even, believe it or not, like baby showers and things of that nature. They'll come, and we have groups larger than the 6. So that's kind of why.
So 36 you can fit with the current regulations. You're only building in 4 for if it changes.
I think we could only, I think that would be the max.
Okay, all right.
So 36 is what you're asking for right now, and that's what would meet the guidelines. Is that correct?
36 meets the current guidelines.
Okay, so maybe we should make it 36, and if it changes, we could increase it, because we can't agree to something that's not in the governor's guidelines right now, right? But certainly it's reasonable to come back and have us amend it. I would not have a problem with that.
That makes sense to us. I mean, yeah, it's fine, because the governor always gives plenty of time for us to come back in.
Sure.
Lord knows he gives us at least a weekend always. So
I mean, I'm okay with that too. I think if we approve for the 36, which is kind of what we can do right now, and then if the governor changes something, that you, Melissa, and Jill will come back with the applicant for the added seats. It may be more than 40 or whatever we can fit. So
cross my fingers.
Right.
Okay.
So does anybody want to make a motion? Rosie, since you had that question, do you want to make a motion to that effect?
Yeah, so I will amend the motion to state that we are approving 36, a maximum of 36 seating on the temporary outdoor seating area. Does that sound?
Yeah, that's
okay.
All right, and Darcy, you seconded?
Yes.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, roll call vote. We'll start with Darcy.
Darcy Dale, aye.
Rosie?
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Bill?
William Olson, aye. Now, do they have to redo their application before we sign? Do we need to sign this? Do we just mark it up before we sign it? I mean, I know we're making a motion, but do we need to sign something?
Right.
If the attorneys wanted to send us a corrected page that has the 40 referenced, change it to 36, send it to us tomorrow. We'll add it to the package, and you guys can just sign it that way.
We'll email it right out to you.
Okay.
Right.
William Olson, aye.
Jamie?
Jamie Knutson, aye.
All right, and myself, Sean Farrell, aye. Thank you, Melissa and Jill, for joining us for this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
And up next, we have, scroll down a little bit here. Confirm a joint meeting date to finalize the warrant language with the FinCom. And Joey had a date, right?
We had tossed out as a possibility April 12th, the FinCom has confirmed all 5 members would be available on that night, and I have confirmed the town council would also be available that night. So if you schedule it, I'll let the moderator know as well. And
Joe, did you say April 12th? And what
yeah,
day
so
is
a week from tonight. I'm sorry?
What day is that? I don't have a calendar in front of me.
Next Monday,
Next
1 week from
Monday.
tonight.
Monday.
Thank you.
And I think that's fine. The only thing is it just pops in my head too, because I just got an email. The League of Women Voters is having their candidates night either that Monday or Tuesday. So Bill or I might not be here or have a scheduling conflict, but we'll figure it out. Maybe I'll email back the League of Women Voters and tell them that Monday is no good.
Right.
And we'll just make do.
When can we do this? Could this be a 6 o'clock or a 6:30 thing? Because it might take a little time.
Yeah, I think the 6 o'clock would work. And Joe, do you want to reach out to John and see if 6 o'clock works for the FinCom?
John's right here. He can tell you.
Hey, John, sorry, I didn't see
Hey,
you.
Sean.
Yes.
You're hiding. John, would that work with you, with your board, do you think?
I think 6 o'clock should work just fine.
Perfect.
Yeah. Probably the earlier the better, so that we can get through it all.
And I see that Christina Holes is on the line too. Christina, did you hear any of that conversation?
I did hear some of it. Oh, I just realized my microphone was not on mute this whole time. Sorry.
That's okay.
Hope I wasn't making noise. Sorry, the 12th at 6?
Yeah, the 12th at 6.
Yeah, that's good.
Right. And then Christina Holes from the Human Rights Committee, you are also on the League of Women's Voters, correct? You're the one that emailed me?
Yeah, I am.
Hi. So I just got your email this afternoon about the timing, and obviously we might have a potential conflict with 2 of us at the.
Yes. So the date that you will be finalizing the warrant is going to be the
12th, Monday the 12th at 6.
Okay, so we'll just shoot for the
Tuesday
date. Yes.
Perfect. And if there's a problem, just let us know and we'll try to figure something out.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. So the 12th works for us at 6. We want a motion on that, Joe? Do you think we need a motion on that?
It probably makes sense to just take a quick vote. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So anybody want to make a motion, and we'll
Move that we schedule our next joint meeting with the FinCom for Monday, April 12th at 6 o'clock in the evening.
Second.
All right, a second, and then roll call vote. We'll start with Darcy.
Darcy Dale, aye.
Rosie.
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Bill.
William Olson, aye.
Jamie.
Amy Knutson, aye.
And myself, Sean Farrell, aye. Thank you, everyone. And
Thanks,
move right along. Yep. What was that?
Oh, thanks for setting that up, Sean.
Oh yeah, thanks, John. Thanks for being accommodating too.
Oh, sure. Hey,
Yes.
Joe, do we have to file a separate agenda, or can we do one? I can never remember.
Yeah, as Tom said last week, the state looks upon it much better if you file separately agendas.
So we'll go ahead.
He's got us since KP Law came on. He's gotten us out of the habit of filing joint agendas. But what I can do is we were planning, I think, just to have a one agenda meeting, which was to review the warrant and budget for a town meeting. And
Exactly.
I'll send that to you. And if you approve it, we'll put it on your letterhead too.
Yeah, it'll be the facsimile of the same thing, right? Yeah.
Perfect. That'd be great.
Okay.
All right, so up next, we have the OPEB Irrevocable Trust Agreement discussion and vote. So if you recall, in theory, we did this a while ago, but in reality, we didn't quite dot our I's and cross our T's on it. So this is why we're looking at it again. Nothing has changed. We just never, I guess, finally approved it and made the move on it. So this is something that we should do because we've already agreed to do it. So Joe, do you want to queue up anything else with it?
Yeah, I mean, it was completely an oversight. Town meeting has passed this and said they wanted to do it, and we were working. At the time this all happened, we were changing town councils, we were changing treasurers, et cetera. That's a long way of unfortunately making excuses, but that's kind of the reason the loop didn't get closed. And this trust agreement was drafted for us by our town council and is the same type of agreement that they've used in other communities. I'm trying to bring it up here for you, but you should all have it in your packets. It's been approved by them, and if you vote on it, we'll be able to, I believe it has to get posted for 60 days once you vote on it. And at the end of the 60 days, it becomes official. So that gives town clerk some time to take anybody, if anybody has questions or complaints. But so you could vote on it tonight, and 60 days from now, we'd be able to fully implement the trust agreement and therefore create the irrevocable trust that was supposed to be created by town meeting some time ago.
So Joe, you said nothing has changed. It's the same one that we were discussing back in the day.
Yep.
Okay. Shall I make a motion?
Yeah, that'd be great.
I move that we vote to accept the OPEB irrevocable trust agreement.
Second from anybody?
Second.
Second.
All right. And then any more discussion?
I just have a question. Who is who's going to be the trustee / administrator of this trust fund?
The treasurer.
The treasurer.
Treasurer. Okay, our town. Okay.
Our treasurer, Peggy McLaughlin.
Okay.
She administers all of the funds that we have in trusts and works with our banking specialist that does that. And I can't remember their name offhand, but the money is still in the same account, and we'll just change the status of it. So
okay.
All right. So we'll do a roll call.
So my only comment, I don't know if it needs an amendment or anything, is just we're approving the form of this. Obviously, there's a few like very basic blanks that need to be filled in, like the name of the town and the proper date.
Right. Yeah, it says 2019. Yeah.
We should approve the form with,
with the proper stuff in it. I agree with that.
Do you want to
Amend it?
enumerate those changes?
Yeah, Jamie, if you want to opine on those a little bit, and then we can call it filled in, and Joe can fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just on the first page.
Mhm.
It should say the town of Hamilton and should have, well, actually, maybe we should talk about what the date should be. Is it the date that the town meeting happened, or is it today?
I think it's the date of today of your vote, and then, like I said, and then it fully takes effect 60 days after your vote. So,
Right. So it should be today's date, and then, but on that next, where it says whereas on or about the town accepted, is that today's date, or is that the?
That would be the town meeting date.
That would be the town meeting date, I would imagine, if the town accepted it.
Mhm.
Right. Yes, and we had that date. It was April 6, 2019.
So, and then in Article 3, there's some of the same kind of stuff that I don't think we have to necessarily discuss. It's very obvious what it should be.
If you don't mind, I'm going to start. I actually had gone in and tried to update that for you based on today's date, and we didn't, for whatever reason, get it into your packets. But it's here. It says the 5th day of April 2021. That's the day you vote, and then is Article 3 you said?
Yep. Yeah, that's it. Let's vote on the thing that's on the screen then.
Yeah.
So do we need to restate the motion, or?
The motion is pretty general, so I think.
Yeah, I think we're okay with the motion.
Okay.
Now that we've just got all the language kind of in front of us that's correct and filled in, I think we can go ahead and call the vote. So we'll start with Darcy.
Darcy Dale, aye.
Rosie.
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Bill.
William Wilson, aye.
Jamie.
Jamie Knutson, aye.
And myself, Sean Farrell, aye.
So Joe, this needs to be signed by us. Does it get signed now or after 60 days?
I believe you sign it now, and then it gets posted with your signatures on it. So I will have it out here along with the license that you just approved with Pat, and then after you've signed it, Peggy will sign it, and then the town clerk will post it. So I'll leave these out in the office starting tomorrow. So as you're able to stop by and sign the document, please do. And then it'll be here for you. Then we'll post it with the town clerk as soon as that's done.
All right. All right, up next, we have the license for National Grid at Town Hall, discuss and vote. And so this is, we need a town meeting vote to make an easement for National Grid to hook up basically our cell phone tower behind Town Hall. This is kind of a workaround until STM. So it allows us to have National Grid do the work and hook up the tower. And then we'll be on the up and up when we get to town meeting in the fall to approve the easement. Anything else, Joe, that I'm missing there?
No, that's it. The license was drafted by our attorney and basically allows them to construct the stuff and get the tower hooked up. If it's got to be there, it may as well be working. And it would be able to be corrected with an easement at the special town meeting in the fall. The KP Law assures us that they've done this in several other towns, particularly around these kinds of things when utility easements are needed over town property.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Will I make a motion?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll
And then
ask
we'll have a
that.
discussion if you have any questions. Go ahead, Darcy.
I move that we vote to accept the license for the National Grid at Town Hall.
All right. Anybody second?
Second that.
All right. Any discussion? Rosie, you were going to say something, I think?
Yeah, and I actually just reread it here. So everything's going to be underground, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, they're going to dig a trench and bury it all.
Yeah. Okay.
And I assume, so Mass Electric has approved this as well? Their lawyers, Joe?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
So tell me what has to happen in fall meeting again, so I understand what the next steps are.
It'll basically, we're licensing them the ability to do it, but then when it comes to STM, it'll be giving them an easement on that property so they can put their
repairs or anything. If in the future there's ever needs to be repaired there, they'd have the right to be able to enter that piece of property where their line is to fix it.
So this will be a separate article?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there an ETA on that, Sean, do you know, or Joe?
On the hookup from National Grid, I think once they get this, then it kind of starts the ball rolling, but
Yeah,
National Grid,
they couldn't move forward because they didn't have permission to go across our property. So
I would imagine, well, National Grid kind of takes their time at different times, but you know, I think they're
actually
going
been
to
pretty
move on it
engaged in
fairly
this one.
quickly.
They have been pretty engaged in this one. I don't know what's got them engaged, but they have been asking about it. So.
All right. Any other questions or discussion? All right. So we'll, all those in favor, we'll start with Rosie.
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Darcy.
Darcy Dale, aye.
Bill.
William Olson, aye.
Jamie.
Jamie Knutson, aye.
Myself, Sean Farrell, aye. Thanks, everybody. And up next, we have a discussion of possible anti-bias training for boards and committees. So, and I'll let Darcy speak to this as well, but I'll kind of cue it up a little bit. That Darcy had sent me an email a little while ago, and I forwarded on to the rest of you that she was feeling there's some bias within the board. And so I had a couple conversations with her through email and phone, and we kind of came to not really a decision, but a question of whether we thought that the board should take some type of anti-bias training or sensitivity training. I think I see her kind of nodding her head a little bit, but we thought that was both a good idea. And it would be good if we kind of open it up to all boards and committees, because I think we both feel that it's something that it's not just a Board of Selectmen thing, it's a everybody thing. So, you know, we wanted to discuss it tonight. Darcy, was there anything else you wanted to add?
No, just that I think it would benefit, and I think it's going to, you know, it can't hurt. It can only help. And there must, I'm sure there are plenty of things I need to know. So I don't know. I just think it's a positive thing, and it'll probably open some doors and maybe some hearts, and, you know, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, I think even if you think you know everything, you don't really know everything. You know?
And the more you know, the more you know you don't know.
Right, exactly. You know, and I think in this, in any day and age, I guess, but especially in today's day and age with a lot more awareness out there about different things, it's good to kind of have your finger on the pulse and be conscious of what you're doing and saying. And I think that's important. And I spoke to Joe a little bit about it, and he's kind of on the same page that Darcy and I are on. And we thought there might be two different trainings. So I think the bias training and the sensitivity training would be two different things. You can't really lump them into one thing. I think it would be two kind of sessions. And most likely KP Law would probably do one of them, but we're not sure who would do the other one. We'll have to look into that. But just kind of any thoughts or opinions from other than Darcy and myself on if you think this is a good idea, if we want to do it, and et cetera.
Yeah, I think it's good to just give people more to think about in all areas. So yeah, Sean, you and I had talked about this briefly, and I think it'd be a really helpful thing to engage in.
Agreed. I think we can always train, like I said, even with that open meeting law, right? We do it every week, or every other week, but to learn more from other people who know more than we do is always a good thing. So I welcome it. I just want to make sure that the process to, once again, it could be a whole discussion to pick the person to train us. So hopefully there can be some discussion on that to make sure we get the best person for this group. So, but I welcome it, and I will, whatever I can do to help.
Jamie, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, welcome that. And yeah, I think we need to have some discussions about what it's going to look like, who's going to do it. Is there an issue of cost? I mean, obviously it's going to cost, but is there?
Right, that's a good question.
Within the budget?
I think it's worth the cost, but we should be wary of what it is and where the money comes from, et cetera, since we're getting kind of close to the end of our budget cycle.
It makes sense to include other boards and stuff too, so we can sort of get the most bang for the buck. So
right, and I feel sooner than later would be good, but if the money is an issue in finding the funds, we could wait till July 1st to figure it out. But I'd like to do it sooner than that.
And
Go ahead, Darcy.
I wonder if there's any grant money available for such training.
There may be some grant money actually through Maya, through our insurer. They do lots of different training for a lot of different reasons, and anything that would put the town at risk. So actually, this could potentially fall into that bucket in the future. So if the board's all right with it, I would work with Michelle Carroll, our Human Resources Director, to identify a couple of different options for you on both types of training, sensitivity training and anti-bias training. I know that the police department already does anti-bias training for police officers. I don't know how. I don't know if that would be the same type of training you all would need. So we'll talk about it with Russ, and we'll get some names of a couple different companies or consultants that do that. And then we'll get to the names of a couple different companies that do sensitivity training, and we'll bring you the options. Hopefully by the meeting on the April 20th, that would be my goal, would be to get it done by April 20th. And when we do, we'll identify for you funding sources within the current fiscal year, and if we need to push part of it off to next year or not. We'll try to have all those options out for you.
And is this going to be mandatory or optional? How are we going to?
That's a good question, Rosie. I think, I would like to make it mandatory, at least for board chairs. It would be great if everyone that could participate would participate, but I think at the least it should be the board chair should be there. But I think that everybody from every board and committee should be there if they're able to be there.
Yep.
And we can't really force them to do it, but I think if we strongly recommend it, that would be the kind of thing. Maybe we or Joe or kind of together can write a letter from the Board of Selectmen and the town manager saying, this is going to be available. Here's when it's going to be available. We strongly urge that you participate.
Yeah.
1 minute video would be fantastic.
Yeah.
You got it, Bill. All right. Any other discussion? We'll let Joe look into that and then get back to us kind of with options and timing and stuff. That sound good?
Do we need to make a motion, or is that just a
You're just telling me what to do, which is what you get to do all the time. So I'll just take that as my marching orders.
Okay.
Right, thanks, Joe.
All right. And up next, we have.
Is there any, Scott, just to interrupt, is there any discussion on that issue or no?
Discussion about what, Tosh?
The last issue, the sensitivity training. I don't know if that's open to public discussion as an agenda item or not.
I'll let you opine about it if you want to for a second.
Okay, just more, maybe some questions about it. Generally speaking, would this be the kind of thing that would be publicly, like you say, you got to go through a program, would that be publicly accessible, like the content of that, or no? Would it be like a public records law type thing?
Yeah, I mean, any training we do for any of the boards and committee members is kind of public, public property afterwards. But that would somewhat depend on our contract. So some of these consultants probably try to protect their property as much as possible. But to the extent that we're allowed to share that stuff, we would share whatever we're allowed to based on the contract that we sign with the consultant.
Yeah.
Okay. And what would be, what venue would you share it if you are able to divulge the content of the programs?
I'm open to that. I mean, it's likely that if we do any of it in this current fiscal year, it'll probably be done over Zoom. So we'll have a video of it. We could probably always make the video available on our Town of Hamilton YouTube channel. And, that would give some people an idea of what the board members are learning and,
good. Right. Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
well,
I guess,
to
go ahead.
Tasha's point, sorry, Tasha, to Tasha's point, I think, we'll have to coordinate posting the meeting and all that kind of stuff because it's going to have a lot of participants. So we'll have to coordinate the agenda and everything like that. So.
Oh, good. Yeah, that'd be great if it could be publicly available just to know what was in it. Yeah, I'm curious about that. I think this thing, the public training, I think for Wenham came up in the Wenham Human Rights Committee discussions about for the town of Wenham. And one of the members on the board, Sam Nordberg, I guess he professionally, he deals with institutional stuff, and I think he's a psychiatrist or something. But he cautioned that some of these programs, depending on what you pick, I mean, KP Law is probably pretty reputable, but some of these programs that are offered, some of them may not be so great. There's some of them are fly by night, some who knows what. So yeah, I'm just curious on how you guys pick that or what you're looking out for. As you know me, I'm concerned with sort of political stuff and wondering if some bias training might be pretty benign, like, just look out for not, hurting people's feelings and insulting people accidentally, but some sort of under the rubric of bias training or the name is more sort of partisan political and can get kind of, controversial, as you guys probably realize from if you're following the news of this kind of stuff, this, bias training, corporate stuff, where some corporations have kind of stepped in it when some people are taking pictures of some slides, which shows, pretty radical stuff on there. So I just want to make sure the town of Hamilton isn't kind of, getting into a program that's kind of maybe political indoctrination or something accidentally, you know what I'm saying?
Right. So Joe, part of your marching orders is no radical stuff.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's kind of silly on one hand, but then kind of serious on another hand because, there's some stuff that's almost could be considered racist against some groups in this anti-bias training, which I'd rather not see our police involved with. I'd rather not see, elected officials kind of drift into, from a feel-good perspective. Like, I think Darcy's intent is feel-good and kind of, reasonably like, hey, we want to get along, we want to do this. But some people who are in this profession are doing it for, kind of race-baiting reasons and kind of, seriously not good intentions. Let's put it that way. I could give you examples. I don't know how much we want to go on with this, but, that's something I follow and I'm interested in. And this is a thing that's been going on nationally on a big scale. It's very controversial. So, that's my kind of.
All right. Well, thanks for your opinion, Tasha. I'm sure we will discuss our kind of options when Joe looks at them. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I will. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Tasha. And then so up next we have discuss amending the HRC policy language. And this is another item that Darcy has brought up to us and Rosie as well about some of the language in the HRC document. In particular with under the banner of religion, atheists, and then under the banner of sex in the document, adding women specifically into the document. And so, Darcy, do you want to speak to it?
Yes, I do. I think they were conspicuous by their absence. And as we had a webinar with Joe B. as the facilitator or moderator. This was for the Human Rights Forum. And I'm speaking to people who may not be aware that we did have this. So I'm going to, and Joe B. suggested that you can't leave out groups because that is not, it is not considered to be a human rights advocacy when you eliminate people. And earlier, when I wanted to add them, I felt I got some pushback. So now I really think we need to consider everybody. And as Joby said, you can't exclude humans, right? And the other thing is that women of color have the most discrimination and the most abuses thrown at them. So it's really important that we spell it out, that women and atheists belong. They are worthy of human rights. And I think we need to add that to the document. And I know this is an executive decision. Any kind of modification to this document will come from the Board of Selectmen, and we may do that from time to time. So I expect I will be doing that from time to time, modifying some of the language that we felt was a little aggressive, a little angry. We're looking for something a little more extending a hand, a little bit more open, a little bit more involved with outreach. So over time, I expect we will be tailoring that document.
I don't want to kind of steer or lead the discussion, but I know I talked to Jamie about this and Rosie and Bill as well, but we haven't kind of talked as a group about it. So if any of the other four of you, or I should say four, including myself, wanted to add anything to Darcy's comments, either kind of talking about her things, or if you thought the document needed changing, or if you had a different kind of an idea about, because we did talk about this being a living document, as with all of our policies and documents that we do.
Yeah, I mean, Sean, I'll go first. I think, yeah, I agree. I mean, when we spent a lot of time on these words, and my opinion was put less, not more in, so we could be more flexible.
Yep.
And this is what I was worried about: is the more you put in, and the more you have to put in. So, and I 100% agree. I thought this needs to be a living, breathing document, and I have no problem changing it in the future. My recommendation, I've thought about it for a while, and my since this came up, my recommendation is that now that we have the board or the committee and their meeting, we should we should charge them with, now that they're formed, reading the document. I don't want to change it every other day. Let's give them some time to go through it and have them come back to us with recommendations, including this. And let's maybe in a month from now, revisit it and look. Cause I think that they just were formed, within the last couple of weeks, right? So give them the opportunity to go through it. I'd like to, and I agree. I'd like to, we put it together to get this thing out there and to get this committee formed. Let's give them a first charge. So look at the charge, come back to the recommendations, look at Darcy's recommendation, and vote on it in a little bit. But I have no problem looking at it and voting on it. And I thought we were going to vote tonight. It actually didn't say vote tonight. So I think, yeah, it's a good idea. Let's discuss. I think it's a good discussion. I think it's good to be inclusive, but I also don't want to be sort of reverse inclusive by listing so many people, not other people. So my recommendation is to go back to the committee, charge them with looking at it and coming to make recommendations, and maybe in a month from now, we look at that and vote on it.
With the caveat that knowing that this is an executive decision and we're not going to abdicate our responsibilities. So even though we get recommendations from this commission, they are simply recommendations, and that the board, the executive board, has the responsibility. So I just want to mention that.
No, I think I understand what you're saying, Darcy, and I agree with it. We know that the HRC is an advisory committee, right? So, they would make a recommendation to us, and, unfortunately we could say no, or we would say, yes, we agree, but I think I agree with Bill a bit that we'd like to have that input from them, because they are the kind of boots on the ground for this. So
I'm just thinking about what happened last time where the executive discussion got derailed. I don't want that to happen again.
Okay, Rosie or Jamie, comments or questions?
Actually, Ian Brady had put a little notice up saying that she wanted to speak to it. So I'm interested to hear what she has to say about this.
Sure. I was going to say, I really appreciate Darcy's comments, and we do want to be as inclusive as possible with our language. First of all, the commission would be happy to take the language back and take a deeper dive in looking at it more thoroughly for you. My read of our language and my analysis of it thus far is that it actually follows quite closely all the guidance on being the most inclusive language can be. Looking at all guides on inclusive language, looking at all recommendations from all other human rights organizations, national human rights organizations, it's most inclusive to say religion, and it's most inclusive to say sex, sexual orientation, and gender identity, and not to bring in those binary constructs of men, women, and to list religious beliefs. So that's just something to put back to you to think about, that by labeling a belief system or labeling one of those binary constructs, we're making it less inclusive. We're making, not more, I shouldn't say more, less inclusive. We're making it less inclusive rather than a broader umbrella and a more inclusive
Well,
language.
To be very broad, you wouldn't have listed anyone. But since everyone was listed, now you have to go all the way. So
I'm not sure I agree with that completely, but I'm going to stop talking now and let you guys continue to talk.
It is an executive decision after we've discussed all the ramifications.
Jamie, comments?
Yeah. So I agree, I guess, that if we're going to consider this, that I think the commission should have a chance to review it. And the reason, and I guess the thing that was missing from, Darcy's email proposing it, or today, her advocacy for it, is the fact that she hasn't said, well, this is what these experts say about the right language. Here's other examples of Human Rights Commission purpose statements or charter documents. And the only person mentioned was Joe Borsellino, and I believe our document might track their document in the Dedham Human Rights Forum pretty much exactly. So, and when we did have the discussion, I actually don't remember the issue of atheists coming up in the four times that we discussed the Human Rights Commission. I definitely remember some discussion about religion, but I don't remember the atheist thing. But
yep.
On the tape. But so I think we should let, and I think Darcy, you're welcome to, I think actually have experts or authority for a proposal, but in the world of civil rights and Supreme Court decisions and things, the word religion does include atheism, even though it doesn't initially sound common sense wise like it does. And then with regard to women's rights, I think and that discussion we had during those 4 readings that we had on this is that when we're talking about a document that's describing the lack of the desire not to discriminate on things, that the word sex covers what you are proposing, and to, I guess, identify one particular group in that particular document, again, to me, and I'm happy to listen. So that's why I'm saying this is really just listen, but I haven't seen that in any other place being done that way. What I feel like you're really asking is, we need a spotlight on women's rights. That I totally,
yeah.
That I totally agree with, and I think
one way to do that is to include women's rights in our human rights document. I would like to, Mr. Chair, if we want to move on, I would be happy if you wanted.
You would be ready to move on. So, yeah. And I think, sorry to cut you short there, Jamie, or what, but maybe we can do this. We've already kind of talked. Bill had the idea about kind of letting the Human Rights Commission, give them the charge to kind of talk about the language, and Darcy's suggestions on atheists and including women, kind of calling them out in those two parts of sex and religion, and then have them make some recommendations to us at an upcoming meeting after they've looked at it. I don't see any problem with that, and maybe they'll see something else in the document that they think needs some adjusting, and then come back to us and we can have a further discussion based on the recommendations.
And I would urge women who live and work in Hamilton to get on board.
And I would say too, Darcy, if it doesn't go in your favor that we don't include women and call them out specifically, or atheists specifically, that I would hope, and I'm going to say that I know that Anne and the rest of the HRC will do all these inclusive programs and champion women's rights and champion atheist rights and every other kind of group that I don't want to say lumped together in that document, but we'll have a lot of programming based on that, hopefully, and some outreach as well.
Well, we have to have outreach for sure. That's what the whole function of this, that's what this whole thing is all about, is outreach.
Right.
Well, you're absolutely right, Sean, though. It's in no way exclusive. It's meant to be entirely inclusive.
Right. All right. So does anybody want to make a motion to, I'm trying to think of how we would word it, to give a
I make a motion to charge the HRC with looking at the language of the charter and going back to us within 60 days and making any recommendations to changes on the language that we can consider and vote on.
All right. A second by anybody?
Second.
All right. And then any further discussion? Okay. Roll call vote. We'll start with Rosie.
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Darcy.
Darcy Dale, aye.
Jamie.
Amy Knutson, aye.
Did I say Bill yet? Bill?
William Wilson, aye.
Myself, Sean Farrell, aye. And thank you all the HRC people that joined us tonight. Now that you're a committee, just be careful of OML with quorums on meetings. And then up next, we have a letter to the school committee, discuss and vote on it. We have Michelle Bailey on the Zoom now, so she can opine a little bit to it as well. Rosie and Darcy put their heads together and they drafted a letter, and I sent it out, I think, earlier today. And Joe, can you zoom in a little bit so folks can see it? And we can discuss it a little bit, see if we want to change the language or if we think it's perfect as written.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll ask Darcy and Rosie to put the time on. Is there anything you want us specifically to look at on it, or do you guys are you guys pretty happy with it?
I'm happy with it. I mean,
Yeah.
I would be happy to hear anybody's ideas too.
Yeah, I'm happy
I read
with
it.
it.
I read it. I thought it looked good. So I just didn't know if you guys had any questions or you wanted us to comment on any specific part of it. But I thought it was great, and you guys have done the most of the work on this thing. So I support it. So I didn't have any comments or changes to it.
Jamie, did you have a chance to look it over?
Yeah, briefly. So I had there was one typo, and we'll find it. That's not a big.
I think it's at the bottom.
As long as we get it right, it's not a big deal. I am wondering in the I'm looking at it here. Is that I don't know, maybe where the sentence, or excuse me, the paragraph, the second to last paragraph that begins 2 debt exclusion projects. I wonder whether that just needs to be sort of more explained a little bit more. I mean, I don't know. I guess we all understand it, and I'm guessing the school committee will get it, but kind of, I don't know, maybe explaining why that's relevant.
Important, yeah.
Right, because we won't be paying the debt service on those projects.
Right.
down, the next paragraph down. No, it does, I think it says both of these will be totally paid and thus removed from the tax rolls within 7 years. And this will enable other projects to come forward without additional tax burden. Maybe
Jamie, what, I mean, it was kind of your thought. Would you add, would you change? Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would be, I'm not sure. I wonder if there's a different word to use for debt exclusion projects. You know, 2 projects requiring our town to, you know, pay down
our loan, right?
And then maybe at the end of the sentence,
I mean, maybe you could add a line that says 2 debt exclusion projects, which currently, you know, has a balance of, you know, whatever it is, put a dollar amount there, $3 million, blah, 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 will be totally paid and thus removed from the tax rolls within 7 years. They can see sort of the equivalent of what we have left to pay. And then what, you know, so it's sort of equivalent. So in terms of being equivalent, you can understand the dollar amount, but that's what you're looking for, Jamie. You're looking for somebody to understand actually what that means, right? What that,
yeah.
are you moving a dollar from the tax roll, or you're moving $1 million from the tax roll, right? What is it? So
right, and then maybe because of that, not the words "without additional burden to taxpayers." I'm not sure I want to go that far as to say that.
Yeah, no, I get that one too. I think
minimizing additional burden to taxpayers, I would say, but I found the typo though. It's right where your cursor is right now, Joe. It's the word before. We understand there are significant school needs. Not here are.
That was it. Yep.
Maybe you could say, yeah. I mean, I agree. We could. I mean, for people who don't know what this is and are going to read it, they might not know what it means by debt exclusion project, because it's actually not there is a debt.
Well, is it going to the superintendent and the school committee?
Well, I see Michelle's got her hand up.
Oh,
Michelle, do you want to speak for a second to us?
Yeah, thank you. First, I just wanted to let you know that the Miles River Middle School rolled off 2 years ago. So that is not something that's currently.
Not for Hamilton.
Yeah. But the other thing is, I feel that you could delete that entirely. The purpose of this letter is to come to the school committee to ask us to do something that we haven't traditionally done as a school committee, which is sort of like opine on non-school sort of other things. And we, at least the people that I've spoken to on the school committee, were very much surprised when the town hall didn't pass, and then hearing the reasons for it were to us not necessarily logical, because we try and explain it as it like there's a wheel of debt and as the wheel rolls around, then you get back to the beginning and new debt starts again. But if we're all on the same spoke of the wheel, it's going to be a pretty clunky wheel, so we need to sort of space the spokes out. And if people want there to be a school project in the next, 5 or 6 years, then you really need to get that town hall thing rocking as quickly as possible, because both are needed. It's not a one or the other. It's a both are needed. And the question is, when can you afford to do what, and when are you ready to do what? And it sounds like you're ready. So,
well, it's actually a matter of, we are non-compliant in every metric you can imagine.
Yep. I totally get that.
We don't have access for the Americans with Disability Act, which is a human rights issue.
Yep.
It's
the same is true at the schools, Darcy. I totally get it. The same is true at the
schools. So if I can
talking to the people out there listening, they may not realize that we are not compliant for plumbing code, for electric code, for fire code, for ADA compliance, sanitation code, and all building codes. We comply with none of it. And it's actually a very dangerous situation. And we really need to get this done before we can do anything else.
Right. So to Michelle's point earlier about the document that we're talking about, before she even said it, I was going to suggest that maybe we get rid of that whole debt exclusion paragraph completely, make it even shorter and sweeter.
Yep.
Because we're kind of preaching to the choir a little bit here with the school committee. You know, they're on the same page for the most part about this.
Okay.
So I think the debt exclusion stuff is something that we can talk about to more of our constituents, that they need to know how the kind of tax roll is going and the debt exclusion and stuff like that. So I think if we just completely remove that, I think then we'd have a little bit of a stronger document. We wouldn't have to figure out how to rework it and put in numbers and reorganize that paragraph.
And
That
for-
sounds fine. That sounds,
just for timing purposes, if you could send
Yeah.
this over today or tomorrow, we can discuss it at our meeting on April the 14th, and then we would be able to get it back to you with, still some significant time before town meeting.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we can, once we vote on it tonight, Joe can either send it out tonight or tomorrow morning.
Great. All right, thanks.
thank you, Michelle.
John, the only question I have about that is it's from the board. So when you consider to vote on this, if somebody would make the motion to have Sean sign it, and then if we could arrange for you to sign it, I'll send it out as soon as it's signed. I can send it out by electronic mail without your signature, but to send a hard copy, we'd want a signature on.
You can send it to me electronically tonight and I'll sign it electronically. I've got a whole signature thing that I can just put right in there.
Perfect.
And Joe, will you just add the hyperlink to the town hall webpage
Will do. Yep.
that discusses? Yeah, so just take that whole paragraph out. That's fine.
All right, so I think we fixed the typo for here to there,
Mhm.
and we've gotten rid of that paragraph, and then Joe will insert a link.
Yeah, already fixed typo, already got rid of the paragraph. I'll add the link after you vote on it.
Well
Right.
done.
Anybody want to make a motion to approve it and a motion for me to sign it for everybody?
I'll move. Okay,
Yeah,
go
go ahead. I'll make a motion to approve. I'm trying to figure out what to call this thing now. I make a motion to approve the
Appeal letter. We're
appeal letter from the
appealing.
Board of Selectmen to the School Board Committee as amended tonight, April 5th.
And authorize Sean to
Sign
And
it.
authorize Sean to sign it and send it.
Second,
All right, and then a roll call vote. We'll start with Darcy,
Darcy Dale, aye.
Rosie,
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Bill,
William Olson, aye.
Jamie,
Amy Knutson, aye.
and myself, Sean Farrell. Aye. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Michelle, for showing up and inputting. All right, and then we have Master Plan Steering Committee discussion. So we've talked about this briefly before, but now we're at it discussing who's who on the steering committee. Joe, do you want to add anything to this?
Just a reminder, you guys, the board did talk about this. I suppose I should stop using the term you guys. I should probably stop using that term. I apologize. The board did discuss this a couple months ago, maybe late December, early January, something like that, talking about what a reasonable size for a steering committee to work with the consultant is. I think I don't recall that you took an actual vote, but I think you talked about 9 being a probably workable number that would allow you potentially the opportunity to have a representative from a few of the standing committees in town, and then have, as many as possible citizens of the town engaged to be able to engage other different groups. So, just think about that, how you want to. You can certainly change your minds now, but like a 9, for instance, would give you the ability to have maybe 4 seats for standing committees: Board of Selectmen, School Committee, Conservation Commission, Planning Board, and then 5 seats for representatives of the town who aren't already involved in another committee. That would give you an opportunity to reach into different subgroups in the community that don't particularly participate all that often. But that's just a reminder of where things were left.
Right. Comments, questions, ideas?
Yeah, so what we're trying to do is figure out the structure for the steering committee tonight. Is that what you're saying? And then it'll go through process of application and
right.
So I agree with Joe says that it should be, half, town committee members and then half public, right? So whether and it needs to be odd number. So 5 and 4, 4 and 5. I don't know the answer to that. And I don't think it should be, I don't think we should say which boards. I should say be 4 members that are on a board, but I think it can be, I don't think we should say like it has to be somebody from the planning board. I think it should just be 4 members that are on board. I don't know how you state that legally, but.
Other thoughts? Darcy, Rosie, or Jamie?
Well, I heard from a citizen today who's on a standing committee, and I think it might be a good idea, Joe, the 4 boards that you talked about, the BOS, the planning board, the Concom, and the school department sound good. And then maybe the other 4 of the steering committee itself come from, say, somebody from the Capcom, maybe somebody from, geez, I don't know, historic
FinCom.
district. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And the historic district, so that we have a mix of people with different goals and out on their boards, and that everybody will have a seat at the table. And then within that, the larger groups will include citizens who can have input for different aspects. That was kind of, I rather liked that idea.
So you're saying all 9, Rosie, should be a member of a board?
Not should, but
Okay.
I'm suggesting it because I think because people who are on boards really have more of a background to be able to discuss issues both ways. And then when we include a broad range of citizens might have, citizens I expect would have opinions, and not everybody would have background knowledge that might be necessary to be able to make decisions.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I like the could, but not have to. So I mean, I guess I could say 5 members have to be on a board, and the other 4 could be on a board. It could be citizens, and we would just, they can apply whether they're on a board or not. They could apply, and we could vote them in or not vote them in. But I think
good.
5. Yeah, 5 required to be on a board. And where the question is now, Rosie, do we want to dictate which boards there are, or do we want to leave it open to application?
Do you mean for the other 4 or for the
For the first 5?
For the first 5. Well, I think the BOS should have somebody in the steering committee, the planning board, the Concom, and then the school committee, and maybe either the FinCom or the Capcom should maybe be the other.
He'd definitely be involved because they are work hand in hand with the BOS, and they have quite the background. They can do analysis.
Joe, I think FinCom has a separate role. I mean, they're very valuable, but would that
would come under their purview, because according to our bylaws, they can weigh in on quote unquote any matter, and they are co-equal but independent from the Board of Selectmen according to our bylaws.
I know that, and Sean, maybe what you were, members of FinCom can't serve. I think it's on any separate board that is responsible for spending money.
That's it. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
I think that's the only qualification. We should definitely check on that, because there's definitely.
I think that is the only.
So there's some committees that if we can't serve on them, these types of committees, type of steering committees, that we just have a liaison.
Right.
For example, Town Hall Building Committee, we couldn't serve on that, but we have a liaison.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Just about every meeting.
Hmm.
Certainly would like to have a member involved, if possible, and if possible, formally on the committee.
Yeah.
But we got to make sure first that it's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're not violating any of our policies or bylaws.
But also it would be as an individual, right? You're not representing the FinCom, you're representing your opinion, right? I mean, if to be on this committee, right? Because you're not going to take things back to the FinCom, just like I think well, I don't know. Let's maybe.
Great question, Rosie. Yeah. Is that true of the other boards as well?
Yeah, I was trying to just think that through. And you could hear my little brain frying. Yeah.
I can discuss with town council the issue around FinCom's
Yeah.
eligibility to serve on or liaise to, so.
Yeah, because I just think of the importance and and somebody with yet looking at something from a different perspective would give us even more information that would help us make the best decisions for our town.
And the information they would be able to help us with is critical because it has to do with financing and it has to do with revenue and it has to do with cash flow. I mean, so, that's what this is all about too, is figuring out where we're going to be and how we're going to get there.
And where do we want to go?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So Joe, when do we need to get this in place by?
We've the town's looking at a consultant who applied, and we've asked them to come back with some additional information. We've given them until next week. Sometime next week. They gave them 2 weeks from last Thursday. They will probably be back before that point. They were suggesting they could have us their information back by the 12th or 13th. So we're hoping to maybe, if the information comes back the way we're hoping, we would be able to put them into contract by the end of April. So we'd want the committee to be ready to go sometime in May.
So do you want us to figure this out tonight?
I think that if the board would at least authorize that we, or make the statement that you want people from the community to apply and ask for people, regardless of their board and committee affiliations, perhaps at the meeting on the 20th, the board could determine what number of seats would actually be dedicated definitely for people who are on existing boards and committees. And then you could, after that, you could kind of determine if, based on the applicants you get, whether more would be on standing committees or whether you just
Good compromise. I think it's a good compromise.
Yeah, and we could always enlarge the number if it turned out that there were several board members, standing committees, or standing committee members who decided, or we decided that they would be a welcome asset to the process. So,
I do think you want to be careful because after a certain size, boards and committees become kind of unwieldy and becomes difficult to kind of get decisions made. And then when working with the consultant, they're going to want to be able to move kind of nimbly and quickly with that. At the same time, one of the things that happens is when you have a board or a committee that's made up of a lot of people that already serve, other people are less inclined to get invested because they feel like they're going to be their opinion won't be as important as other people's opinions. So if we're trying to develop as far-reaching as possible a plan to get as many new voices into the room, my opinion just would be that you'd be a little bit concerned about having a committee that was totally dominated by standing boards and committees, because it might limit some of the input you get from other people.
But aren't okay? So the steering committee is one aspect of this master plan. I have a vision of lots of people being involved in this. So the steering committee is one aspect, but then there will be lots of other committees and groups of people who will work on different aspects of this. So certainly, just because it's a steering committee doesn't mean that's the only group that's going to be involved in this. So people should know that as well.
Right. We'll have a lot of different aspects of public input and forums and surveys and et cetera, et cetera. So, I think to the point of not making a committee that's unwieldy, I think 9 would be the maximum. And I kind of feeling that 5 that are from boards and committees and 4 at large, or they could be from other boards and committees, would be the way to go. And then it's involving more public input where maybe we have some people that maybe let's say we get 8 applicants for the kind of 4, we'll call them at-large members. And then we find some other ways to work those other applicants into the process.
Right, exactly.
Or so, and make them maybe a dedicated panelist at some forums and ask them more specifically, maybe they specifically get the code reds or the surveys and stuff like that. So they're more of an active participant than just the general public, but we want everybody to participate. But, maybe that will be helpful to involve them a little bit more. Maybe there's some subcommittees or ad hoc work groups that they could be involved in, because it is going to be a year to a year and a half process, even with the consultant.
Right.
And it'd just be good to have other applicants too, so that if somebody has to leave, somebody may ask to be on the
Right, you can have
committee, have
alternates.
every intention of being there for 18 months, and then something comes up, their work changes or whatever, and they decide that they can't serve anymore. You'd have ready a pool of people that could be called upon to step in to fill those
Right. So
vacancies.
and to that point, do we want to talk about having a couple of alternates? If we have a board of 9, do we want to have 2 alternates, such as like the planning board does, and other things like that? I think that would be a good idea.
That's a good idea.
Good idea.
So I guess the next steps here. So I think if I'm on the same page here, we're thinking a board of 9 with 2 alternates, and 5 being a designated board or committee that we haven't determined yet, and then 4 kind of at large, which could be public or a person on a board or committee as well on the steering committee. Is that we all on the same page so far?
Could the 2 alternates also be citizens?
Yeah.
At large, yeah.
They could be at large, whoever. Yeah.
Oh, great.
I think that's
a good.
that. Yeah, I think it's a good
structure.
compromise. Yeah, that's good.
But I think next time we can talk about, I think we probably all agree it's boards, we can talk about next time, but I think just to frame the discussion, I think we all agree it's probably BOS, planning board, school committee, FinCom, if they're allowed to join. If they're not, then we got to figure who's next in line. Conservation or historic or, whatever it is. But yeah, so I agree. Yep. So I think we're right there.
And then
Let's
some
think about
additional information, Joe. We haven't done a master plan in a number of years, but I'm sure the process is similar than it was, but I'm sure it's a little bit different with more technology and stuff like that. But maybe if you can do a little research on kind of time commitment for people, so that when we do start advertising for at-large members, et cetera, that we can give them kind of a ballpark of what the involvement actually is. A lot of times I want to let people know what they're signing up for. So they have a good idea of whether they can do the commitment or not, and get them as involved as we can. Give them as much information on the get-go. I mean, I know it's going to be a little bit of a as we go and figuring it out thing, but there's probably some type of a regular cadence of meetings and how long they last and the process of that kind of a thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Any other discussion on this? Does anybody want to make a motion to what we spoke about?
I'll make a motion that we vote to approve the master plan steering committee as discussed. Do you want me to go into details?
No, I think that's okay.
And we welcome applicants to submit their applications between now and the 20th.
20th of
April.
March? I'm sorry, April. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, what Bill Darcy said.
I'll second that.
And Rosie seconds it. All right. And then we'll do a roll call. We'll start with Darcy.
Darcy Dale, aye.
Rosie.
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Bill.
William Olson, aye.
And Jamie.
Jamie Knutson, aye.
All right. And myself, Sean Farrell, aye. All right. Thanks, everybody. Up next.
Zessin is here.
We have to go into a session.
Yes.
Yep.
So now we have just to introduce before we go into session, we have Tim Zessin on, who is Labor Counsel for KP Law, who's going to help us out tonight. And so I've reached out to him. He's looked at the contract. See you, John. And we'll be speaking with him in depth in a moment. So let me get my little cheat sheet up here for executive session. So we've posted a notice, and we are moving into executive session. Will be convened under purpose 1. Let me read through my thing. I always miss it here. Where is it? Sorry, I'm scrolling down. Definitely not litigation, thankfully, at the moment. To conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. So if anybody wants to say yay to that motion, and we'll second it, and then we'll move into executive session and not to return to open session.
So moved.
All right, and then a roll call vote. We'll start with Darcy.
Darcy Dale, aye. I'm here.
Rosie,
Rosie Kennedy here.
Bill,
William Olson here.
Jamie,
Aaron Knutson here.
and myself, Sean Farrell. All right, so we're gonna kick
You
everybody
need
else off.
everybody but everybody but the committee and Mary Alice and Tim